Hello and welcome to Healing the Anxious Mind, your anxiety support community. My name's Carly. I'm a medical student, anxiety advocate, and someone who has experienced and overcome anxiety. And I just want to say I am so grateful that you are here. Today, I wanted to dive a little bit more into my journey with anxiety because I remember so deeply how isolating and alone I felt during my experience with anxiety, and even from time to time when things still pop up for me now. And today I really just wanted to share a little bit about my story. Today I'm 28 years old, but I'm going to take you back to a time where I was 25. At 25 years old, I was doing everything for everyone else. I was volunteering at 6 places, working 3 jobs, trying to get into medical school, and doing everything I could to help everyone in my life. But the one person I left out was myself. So I went for years. 25 was my breaking point. But to be honest, throughout my entire 20s, probably earlier than that, I spent so much of my time trying to please others and to be perfect all the time that I truly forgot how to take care of myself. So I didn't know what to do. I had no idea. One night when I was teaching online, I was sitting at my computer. That night I'd probably gotten 4 hours of sleep. I had consumed copious amounts of coffee, probably more on the lines of, 5 or 6 cups of coffee. And I was exhausted. And one night when I was working on my computer, I just felt this overwhelming feeling of doom cross over my entire body. I felt like my chest was heavy. I was hard to breathe. I felt sweaty, but then cold. I was shaking. My mouth went bone dry and I could barely swallow. In this moment, I didn't know what was going on, but it was terrifying, absolutely terrifying. And you know what I did? I paced around my house. I paused. I tried to get rid of that feeling for a really long period of time. And then I just told myself, I was like, I'll just sleep it off. Tomorrow morning I'll wake up, I'll be completely fine. Because I was in complete denial of what was actually going on. I woke up the next morning and I still felt like I was being chased by a bear. I felt like every part of my body was running in this fight or flight response. And I was terrified. And I spent the next 6 months living my life in fear. I spent the next 6 months trying my best to just make it through the day. I still went to work. I still pushed through, but I had no idea what to do. I went to a therapist, but unfortunately for me, therapy was so expensive that I couldn't go for very long. And I struggled to know what to do next. I read every book, tried every technique, spent hours searching for the answer. I'm sure so many of us can resonate with that search for the answer. I want to know what happened. I want to know why this is happening. And you just want to know how to fix it. But sometimes in our thoughts around fixing it, we realize that we actually just want it to go away. For months, for those 6 months, I continued to push anxiety away. I didn't want it to be in my life. I didn't want it there. I just wanted it gone. I wanted to get back to my old life. Flash forward 6 months, I've now read all these books and thought that having the knowledge would mean that I immediately felt better. And guess what? I felt worse because I felt like I knew the knowledge, but I wasn't actually doing anything to actively apply it to my life. I was lost. I was looking for any resource. And then I started to realize that, one, I was very unkind to myself during this 6-month period and before. I was extremely rude to myself. I was extremely unkind. So I decided to start looking into Dr. Kristen Neff's self-compassion. And that's where I started to recognize how important self-compassion was. So I simply started there. I wasn't trying to fix anxiety. I was just trying to be nice to myself, which seems like, why aren't you nice to yourself to begin with? Well, many of us are not very nice to ourselves. So I just started to practice self-compassion. And then the second thing I did was I started to realize that everything around me was trying to tell me how to heal, but I hadn't actually drawn inward to see what I needed to heal. Well, I started at the fundamentals. I started with, am I sleeping okay? Or what does my sleep look like? How can I prioritize my rest? How can I prioritize my movement? Something to help me move and dissipate some of this anxiety and just to make me feel better. How can I prioritize my diet? How can I prioritize what I'm eating and fueling my body with? And then what can I do to prioritize caffeine intake and all these other things? Because I was drinking 5 cups of coffee a day. I stopped when I was experiencing anxiety. But I realized that I was still trying to push things that were pushing me over. And then I started to go to the next level, which is I had to acknowledge that anxiety was something that I was experiencing because I was in denial. I was like, this isn't anxiety. I don't know what this is, but this isn't anxiety. So I had to go into that step of actually recognizing, okay, so this is anxiety. What does this mean? What can I do here? What is my next step? And how can I support myself through this? How can I be kind to myself through this? So then once I started to recognize when I was experiencing anxiety, I started to recognize how I could regulate my nervous system during this time. Our nervous system is incredibly powerful, and I have another video that I talked about what anxiety is, and I actually get into that nitty-gritties of the nervous system. But I started to recognize how I can bring more balance to my nervous system, how I can practice grounding, gratitude, how I can practice activating my vagus nerve, which is a nerve that runs down here, which is all about the rest and digest side of my nervous system. And then I started to transform the way I just lived my life. I was more mindful and kind to myself as I progressed through my day. I taught myself to slow down. And I also taught myself how to accept anxiety rather than just to push it away. I decided to move toward acceptance and move toward gratitude and move toward navigating how I could support myself through the moments of anxiety rather than constantly pushing them away. And that's when I started to notice that I started to feel better. I started to feel more like myself. And I don't want to say more like my previous self. You know why? Because I'm not my previous self. At 28 years old, I'm not who I was at 25. And that's okay. I am so grateful and happy to who I am today. And that's solely because I did the work. I showed up and I healed. And that's a little bit into what my healing journey looked like. Now I recognize that everybody's healing journey is completely different. But what can be really difficult as we're trying to heal anxiety is trying to find a framework that works best for us. And that's why I created my anxiety healing framework. You can learn about it more below if that's something that interests you to help guide you on your own healing journey, because I felt like I needed that support and I needed that space at the time. So I created something that I hope helps others. So that's a little bit more about me. I'm going to be sharing here more often, trying to share more about my story and how we can move forward in healing together, and how you can move forward in healing and how you can create a healing journey that is so unique to you, because that's what matters. It's not one size fits all. It's all about what feels best for you and how you can best nurture yourself through these moments.